Uno es la fecundidad, el otro la mortalidad y el tercero la movilidad espacial de la población, es decir, la migración. Sea una migración dentro de las fronteras nacionales o fuera de las fronteras nacionales. Aquí lo ven, este es el saldo migratorio anual desde 1900, inicio de la República, hasta el 2010. Hasta 1929 Cuba fue un país de inmigración, es decir, el saldo era favorable a los que llegaban por encima de los que salían. A partir de 1930 comienza un proceso de emigración sostenida hasta la actualidad. Los picos marcan el año 30, marcan el año 60, aquí se fue, marcan el año 60, marcan después un pico bien así, obvio, que en 1980 el Mariel, 130.000 cubanos, y el otro de significación es agosto de 1994. La tendencia desde el 30 es a un proceso de migración sostenido. Aquí tenemos la estructura de la población y de los inmigrantes, de los emigrantes en 2010. Migran de Cuba esencialmente los mismos que migran de otras partes del mundo desde el punto de vista etario. Es decir, personas jóvenes en plena capacidad productiva y reproductiva, lo cual, desde dos puntos de vista, es un desafío para cualquier sociedad y más para la cubana. Y la diferencia entre hombres y mujeres se da esencialmente por los destinos. Si estamos hablando de la migración que viene hacia los Estados Unidos, que es predominantemente familiar, un ligero aumento en el caso de los hombres. Si estamos hablando de las migrantes que van hacia otra parte del mundo, Europa en particular, Centroamérica, Caribe, estamos hablando de una migración donde el componente femenino aumenta. Aquí tenemos la estructura con grupos de edades seleccionados de la población en 2010, lo que les estaba explicando. Y esto es el saldo migratorio externo neto desde el 96 con una proyección hasta el 2030. En cualquiera de las tres variantes que nosotros hemos trabajado como proyección, nos está dando que Cuba se mantendría como un país con un saldo migratorio negativo de alta consideración, entre 40.000 y 44.000 personas. Si revisamos lo que ya hoy se publica en Cuba de los anuarios estadísticos, veremos que más o menos por ahí marcha la cosa, 38.000 personas, 40.000, 39.000, a excepción del año 2013-2014, que se le dio una lectura diferente a una reforma migratoria y no se contabilizaron migrantes como migrantes. Ya el anuario de 2015 retoma la lógica del proceso y reconoce la migración. Pero también Cuba tiene una alta movilidad interna de la población. Esta es la migración interna del país. Es decir, las provincias con tasa migratorio interno positivo son las provincias occidentales, es decir, La Habana, lo que era la antigua provincia de La Habana, Cienfuegos y Matanzas. El resto, que es lo que está acá, es el saldo migratorio negativo. Es decir, todas las provincias del centro y oriente del país pierden población por la migración interna. En migración se estudia siempre que el migrante tiene un ciclo migratorio que va de los lugares rurales a los urbanos, de los urbanos hacia las capitales y ahí hacia el exterior. En el caso de Cuba sucede lo mismo. Y por tanto, muchos de estos migrantes pueden convertirse después en migrantes internacionales. El crecimiento. Bueno, aquí tenemos ya estoy terminando. El crecimiento total de la población desde 1950 hasta el 2012. Aquí lo más interesante es cómo, más allá de las oscilaciones que se han producido, el peso que ha tenido la migración en el crecimiento demográfico. Porque todas las inflexiones de esta gráfica nos están relacionando el crecimiento demográfico con los flujos migratorios del país. Aquí tenemos además el crecimiento natural de la población, que es otra cosa que la natalidad y la mortalidad, que está el crecimiento natural y cómo se va a hacer así. hacer cambios. Muy rápido. Esta es la pirámide, esto sí es una pirámide de población de 1970, hoy ya no son pirámides. Aquí tenemos la de 2012, yo no llego hasta el 30 como llegó Sergio. Aquí es interesante cómo las edades se van uniendo, es decir, descienden las edades de 0 a 14 y de 14 a 40 años y van aumentando y se unen las edades de 60 y más.
¿En qué año? ¿En qué año?
No, ya prácticamente está. El tema de los recursos laborales, con esto termino, con el promedio de los trabajadores cubanos, desde hace algunos años, luego de 40 años, será de 44 en el 2025. Hoy un cubano trabaja aproximadamente, cuando trabaja, para 1 cada 5. Y dentro de unos 10, 15 años, un cubano está trabajando para 10 si no se cambia. Más del 250.000 de trabajadores continúan laborando más allá de su edad de jubilación. Hace 2 años y tanto, casi 3, se cambió la edad de jubilación. Las mujeres trabajan hasta los 60, los hombres hasta los 65 años. Y en términos de proyección, y aquí termino, estamos hablando de que Cuba, todos los pronósticos y ejercicios de proyección de población indican que va a continuar un proceso de disminución de la población hasta llegar a unos 10.300.000, 200.000 y tantos habitantes, con una estructura etaria de casi un 30% de su población de 60 años, imagínense, muy envejecida, lo cual es un punto de alta significación en cualquier estrategia de desarrollo. Esta sería la pirámide de 2030 que ya se nos presentó. Y los impactos, bueno, pues en la familia, los recursos laborales, el sistema de salud, la seguridad social, la seguridad nacional, en el sistema de ciencia, tecnología e innovación, en el desarrollo científico, en los procesos de actualización del modelo cubano, etcétera, etcétera. Hasta aquí la panorámica demográfica, de la dinámica demográfica de Cuba hoy. Dejo otro las preguntas. Muchas gracias.
Many thanks to Jorge Wai, to our Research Institute for inviting me to this very interesting seminar on the Mars. I hope that something is published in this summer, because I have learned already a lot. Okay, so I am trying to combine here my two expertises. One is human economy, and the other one is social security, pensions, health care, etc. I don't have time to go into health. I think that will be by her. So I will concentrate mostly on pensions and social assistance. So this is what you have seen already, but in a different manner, because this is the evolution of aging in Cuba, and oops, where is this? No, I want to point it.
El botón de arriba rojo, el rojo.
So this is what I want you to see. This is 1953 here, and you can see how this is the population over 60. So it's the 90% at the above that Antonio was telling about. This is what you have seen already, which is the birth rate and the fertility rate. Now, what are the consequences of all this on the economic point of view? Well, first of all, you have an older population, and we haven't mentioned the dependency ratio. Dependency ratio is you get the young tail of the population and the old tails. You get 0 to 14, 15 to 59. And you sum both, and then you divide that by the population 60 and above. And the problem is that the two tails have different costs, because the young tail, 0-14, is cheaper than the old tail, 60 and above, in terms of health care, in terms of pensions. Obviously, as older you are, more incidence for morbidity, mortality, etc. And therefore, this tremendous increase here is bringing out the cost of healthcare and pensions up. You also need homes for the elderly. In Cuba, I think you have several generations living together, but it's extremely difficult to do that. And not only, therefore, is the cost of health and pensions, but also homes for the elderly. And all of this have a negative effect on economic growth, because remember that you are productive segment of the population, the some people who are working, they are shrinking, while the old tail is growing, and therefore you have, as Sergio said, you have therefore more weight into the labor force, the productive age of the population to sustain the other two. Okay, now what you have here is a summary of Social Security. Cuba Social Security is pensions, essentially pensions, contributory pensions. For this period from 1989 to 2014, and as you can see here, the peak is here in 2009, and then it declines, particularly this year. And the reason for that, it was mentioned already, is that in 2008, there was a parametric pension reform, and the ages were increased from 55 women, 60 men, to 60 and 65. At that time, in 2008, you have one of the lowest ages of retirement in Latin America, but it was not in correspondence with the life expectancy, which was already one of the highest. And therefore, even if you increase this by 5 years, still it's not enough. And it declines because it was not imposed in one moment, but it was through a period of 7 years. So it began in 2008, and therefore it will end in 2015. We don't have the data yet for a year. You also can see that in this line here, and this is the income or the revenue for Social Security in Cuba is much less than the expenses. So what you have here is the percentage that the state is contributing out of the budget for pensions in relation to the total cost of pension. What this means is that at the peak here, in the year 2013, the government was paying almost half of the total cost of pensions, because the financing is not only by enterprises, and they pay 12%, which have been the same in all these years. That is essentially the contribution of the employer, because very few workers pay in Cuba. The contribution of the worker is supposed to be related to the increase in salaries, as we are going to see. Well, salaries have decreased in real terms, adjusted for inflation, by 73% from 1989 to 2014. So the worker doesn't have the capacity to contribute. And this is essentially employers, but so that you have an idea what this means is that a country similar to Cuba in this sense, they are paying like Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, they are paying twice, sometimes 3 times this contribution rate. So this is very little. No, there is no research. It was mentioned that you have a pay-as-you-go system, but most countries in Latin America that have this system also have a reserve. It's not a full reserve, it's not a fully funded program, but you have a reserve. Cuba doesn't have any reserve. There is a difference with the United States because at least in here, the government has to apply by amount that is not there physically, but there is an obligation. In the case of Cuba, there is nothing. The state takes the contribution and then pays the pension. And this is a major problem because there is also, what is lacking there is the most important element in a pension. It's not the contribution, it's the capital return from the reserve. And because you don't have a capital reserve from the reserve, then obviously you are missing the most important component in the long run to finance a pension. Okay, well, this here is how much of this in relation to GDP. As you can see, it increases until here, and then it goes down because of the same reason that I explained here, which is the decrease in the age of retirement. And this is what it should have been, the contribution should have been for that particular year, not in the long run. We are talking here about two different types of equilibrium. One is a financial equilibrium year by year, but really the most important one is the long run equilibrium, which is the actuarial equilibrium. So that doesn't mean that if this has been increased here from 12 to 21.3, you will have actuarial equilibrium in the long run. It would have meant that only in order to pay the cost in the year 2013, it should have been twice what it was obviously in the long run many more times. We don't have an actuarial study of pension in Cuba since I think it was in the early 1970s, which was done by the International Labor Office. As far as I know, there have been no other study, and this is a major problem because they don't really know how much this is going to cost 20, 30 years from now. And this is another important thing, which we call it the active to passive ratio. This means that you have 3.6 active workers in the labor force for each pensioner. And as you can see, that goes down 2.9. That's very, very low. And of course, this year increases a little bit because in spite of all these problems here, you have more people retired and you have a declining, eventually productive labor force. Okay, now, this is the same thing that you saw before, but in a more visual way. So this is telling you what is this deficit paid by the state. As you can see, it gets to almost half, 43%, and then declines here. The problem with this is that the reform of 2008 is not going to solve this problem. It's going to solve the problem in the short term and perhaps in the middle term, but not in the long term. Because of the reasons that I have explained before. So this probably decreases a little bit, and then it will go up much more than before. The change of the labor force from a state to non-state is a positive thing in economic terms, but in terms of the social security, it's a major problem because the self-employed have a certain flexibility in order to join the social security system. Therefore, that means that you will have many people don't join. They could also declare the income. Many things. Self-employment is a problem not only in Cuba but all over Latin America and developing countries. So that means that these people are not going to have a pension. And if they are not going to have a pension, most of them, then you will have to have social assistance. Those who are not insured and they are poor, they are supposed to get social assistance. Okay, now this is another major problem in Cuba. Not only the system is very expensive, as you saw, but also the pensions are very poor. So this is a the pension adjusted for inflation. This is what we call the real pension. And as you can see, this is an index. The year, starting year 1989, that was 100. And as you can see, that went down to this low point here, in which the pension only have 16% of the value that it had in 1989. This is during the special period, the crisis after the disappearance of the Soviet Union and the socialist camp. And then it had go up, and it had been stagnant in the last 4 or 5 years. That means that a pension in 2014 was half of the pension in purchasing power of 1989. Now, I have seen many exercises that are disingenuous, because if you start here, if you start to give the information here, you see that you increase your pension by 100%, but you have to have the long run view, and obviously we are talking about now a pension which is about 164 COP, national peso, and that's equivalent to $10.56 in convertible pesos or in dollars. So it's extremely low, extremely low. Therefore, these people cannot survive unless they receive remittances. Now, Sergio made a good point about the possibility of these people selling their private home, which is, they have an asset that they didn't have before, but where are they going to go? Some people, what they are doing is selling a house which is bigger and going to an apartment, and then they have some cash. But there are many differences here. Many people have to work after retirement because they don't have the resources. Those that doesn't have remittances, there is a Cuban sociologist that have ranked them among the poorest in the population. Okay, now if you don't have a pension, a contributory pension, then you have to have social assistance. These are figures for the whole population. I will show you what the old age situation is. But we have two different indicators here. One is beneficiaries as a percentage of the total population. As you can see, this goes from 5.3% of GDP, gross domestic product, to 1.5 in the latest year, which is 2014. So that means that you have a reduction in this period of 3.8% of GDP. This is tremendous. I am going to explain why. And here what you have is the percentage of GDP assigned to social pension for the whole population. And you see the same phenomenon here, which goes down from 2.2% of GDP to 0.4% of GDP. That's another reduction of 1.8 points. Now, social assistance is the line in the budget that receives the lowest amount of funds. The second lowest is housing. And what we know is that the economic reforms of Raúl Castro have been important economically. I mean, they are rational. Doesn't mean that they have been very successful so far, but they are in the right direction. The problem is that these economic reforms, which are logical, cause adverse effects because open unemployment is supposed to increase. You have increased a little bit already because you have 1.8 million people in the state sector that have to be dismissed. The availability of food for the population have increasing prices tremendously, and it's taking away from the rationing system that have a subsidy is sold in the market at 4 or 5 times the price of rationing price. So all of this, I think there is a significant consensus. All of this results in a more poor population, and therefore, despite an expansion of poverty, you have a sharp decline in social assistance. So why in the 6th Congress of the Party in 2011, there was a lineamiento, there was a guideline that said that people who are receiving social assistance benefit but have a family that can help, they will be taken out of the as beneficiaries. And that, economically speaking, is a logical measure because it reduces the fiscal deficit, but in terms of help for the people, it's a disastrous solution. And most families in Cuba don't have the resources to support the elderly. And this is the final table. And what I'm showing here, these are all age and social assistance pensions. The first one was overall social assistance. But what you can see here is that the number of all people receiving social assistance have declined sharply from 145,000 to 52,600. That's a decline of 64% in this period. So that means that these people are joining the group of poor, most of them. And this other one is an index, so that you can see what happened. This is 100. That's the benefit, the average social assistance pension, and it goes down to 36. So the real pension, adjusted for inflation, is 36% of what it was in 2007. So we have a very serious problem here. Well, some of the potential solutions have been said already. I don't have the time, we can discuss that later. But it's very difficult to increase the contribution of the worker because the salary is very low, except in some areas like healthcare. So that's a difficult thing. The state should increase the contribution, but they don't have the resources to do that. So one solution to this problem, which is have been done in several countries in Latin America, is to shut down the current pension system. And the state will have to take the burden for that, pay for that. But at least it causes a system that is unsustainable in the long run. It will be cheaper in the long run. And then you create a new pension program, mostly for younger people. There are different cuts in the age. And then you, with that fund, you could have productive investment because you can invest the fund, but also the pensions will be higher in the long run because, as I mentioned before, the most important component is not the contribution, but the capital return. So that's a potential solution. Of course, you have the issue of immigration, and also, I forgot to say something important. There is only one Social Security pension system in Cuba, which is very rare in Latin America. It's integrated, it's unified. But there is one scheme which is out, which is Armed Forces and Intelligence, the Intelligence Services, the MINI. And it's extremely expensive. We don't have any recent data, but about 10 years ago, there was an actuarial study done by an actuary here in Miami, and she estimated that the deficit of the Armed Forces and the pensions, the deficit was higher than the whole deficit of the entire Social Security system for all the population. So, of course, politically, this is not easy to do, and you have that in all Latin American countries, but I am always recommending that this is incorporated into the general system because it has regressive effects in terms of income distribution in the population. Thank you very much.
afternoon. I don't have a PowerPoint because my job was to listen and serve as a discussant for today. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Eddie Martinez, and I'm an anthropologist and a public health researcher, and I'm here at the College of Medicine. So the presenters did an amazing job of laying out some of the challenges demographically, economically, population aging, particularly in the context of migration. Because as many of them mentioned, population aging is a challenge that many countries are facing, but in Cuba they have the particular challenge of the out-migration of people from the island, which in the way Europe has dealt with it, which has some of its challenges too, is bringing people in to take care of the older population. But what I'd like to take the discussion, and mostly through questions that I'm going to pose, I wanted to highlight some of the sociological implications of aging and migration and the reforms that the government has put into place. Some of the things I think that we should be discussing, and hopefully that the group sort of brainstorm some possible solutions, are the impact on primary care. The leading causes of death in Cuba are the leading causes of death you expect to see in a developed country, in an aging country, but there are also causes of death that lend themselves to prevention. So cardiovascular disease and malignant tumors, aka cancer, are things that there are opportunities for prevention. Tobacco reduction, tobacco being such a part of the Cuban culture, is one of the things that is on the table, also very challenging because of the cultural implications. But who will care for these older adults? And that is the big question, right? When in the U.S., who is going to care for them in the U.S.? Older adults are cared for primarily, although that's not widely recognized, by their families. And in Cuba, that is primarily what is happening as well, but a lot of family members are leaving. So there's also the continued need to work with the, not only because of the increase of the retirement age, but because of the reduction in services. And so people are having to work. People are being taken out of the system, and they're having to go back to work regardless of their age. Beyond physical health, I also want us to think about social inclusion and social health. How is this impacting the social roles of older adults? Where do they fit in? The idea that the fact that people who previously received pensions are now further dependent on family poses some important questions for family dynamics. What if they have children but the relationship is not good? What are the, which is something I found when I did here with my study with Cuban